Hello, listeners, and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. Team 3 is here. My name is Jim, and your other readers are
Nan.
And of course me. Tonight, Raymond is being our engineer, and he'll also be doing the copying and distribution. That means that there'll only be 3 of us doing the readings, so we'll all have to work harder. The news this week is taken with permission, of course, from the West Lothian Courier, dated Thursday, the 2nd of April, and we are recording this on the 2nd of April. If you have time, we might take some things from the Reader's Digest and some other sources, with permission, of course. As usual, the recording this week has been divided into 4 sections, and can I remind you at the start that when you've listened to the whole recording, please post your wallet back to us from a post box and not the post office. So, we will start the first section with some general news.
On the beat. Force will focus on improving road safety across local area. As we welcome longer days and, dare I say it, some more favourable weather, I wish to inform you of some activity and focus we are undertaking and have planned around the area of road safety. Naturally, streets and towns become busier with pedestrian, football, cyclists as the days extended, and daylight affords more opportunities for outdoor activities. It is important, however, we all remain vigilant and cautious around roadways and main thoroughfares. In consultation with our local roads policing inspector, Tom Mallinson, we are looking at strong and focused collaboration to ensure the national approach is consistently delivered on a local level. The National Motorcycle Campaign commenced on March the 20th. This focuses on rider safety, improving driver and rider behaviour, reducing collisions and raising awareness. Of particular interest within the local area is illegal off-road motorcycle activity. This is an issue that is brought to my attention on a regular basis. Understandably, residents are concerned about the dangers and antisocial nature of this activity that often comes with damage to property to facilitate it. My community team are working hard to gather information to bring offenders to task. This will involve utilising opportunities to seize motorcycles and report the drivers responsible. The consequences of this can be severe and lead to losing your driving licence or ability to carry one. This affects your professional and personal aspirations, so I would encourage anyone involved to think carefully about potential repercussions. In consultation with partners, priority concerns and solutions are discussed. This allows us to coordinate our approach to sites of concern with road safety planners and key stakeholders, also utilising national resources from the National Motorcycle Unit and Safety Camera Partnership. Much like West Lothian itself, the road network throughout the region is extremely varied. While we have routes primarily transecting and connecting our urban towns, including linking to both the M8 and M9 motorways, we also have a number of rural roads. Regardless of the type of road, our approach remains consistent. We must educate the public about risks and consequences associated with the fatal 5 categories, including drink, driving, driving while distracted, and driving without using a seatbelt. Where appropriate, we will take enforcement action against those who choose to flout legislation and place themselves and others at risk on the road network. Our approach is not limited to those utilising automated vehicles, And we know that maximising the safety of more vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists, and horse riders. As such, we continue to provide these groups with vital information about staying visible and safe, and urging motorists to keep these road users in mind when behind the wheel. More information can be found by visiting roadsafety.scot and on our social media publications. This is the first report I have made to you around bespoke approaches into a single area of business. I wish to continue this through the year as we continue to work alongside the communities and relevant partners to address the varied issues affecting West Lothian with a view to achieving long-term sustainable solutions.
Carrie's weight loss and big change of life. When Carrie Wallace from Livingston looks back at the past year, it's not just her weight loss that stands out, it's how completely her life has changed. Less than a year ago, she describes herself as deeply unhappy and lacking confidence. She avoided mirrors, felt uncomfortable in her own skin, and dreaded shopping for clothes, often hiding beside big, oversized, baggy outfits. Even simple daily tasks were a struggle. The moment that changed everything came when she looked at a photograph of herself. Although she was smiling in the picture, it didn't reflect how she truly felt. "I was really unfit," she said. "Even walking upstairs at home would leave me out of breath. I wasn't happy when I looked at it. That's when I knew something had to change." Encouraged by a friend and inspired by her mum's success, Carrie made the decision to join Slimming World, a step she admits she initially found daunting. That sense of belonging quickly became a cornerstone of her journey. What first felt overwhelming soon became reassuring, as everything was clearly explained and she realised she wasn't alone. "I was really nervous walking into the group because I didn't know anyone," she said. "But within 5 minutes, I felt so welcome. I love the group I go to. Everyone is so supportive, even outside the group." Before joining, her eating habits were inconsistent. She often skipped breakfast, had sometimes lunch, and only ate a large evening meal, followed by snacking late at night. Crisps, she admits, were her downfall. With guidance from her consultant and encouragement from fellow members, Carrie began to build new habits. In her first week, she was delighted with the weight loss, but naturally, she hoped for more. But she now sees her weight loss as healthy and sustainable for life. Now her relationship with food has completely transformed. She plans her meals, shops with intention, and enjoys experimenting in the kitchen. She said, "I love Slimming World's healthy eating plan and continue to enjoy family favourites like pasta, rice dishes and spaghetti bolognese. It feels balanced now. I don't feel like I'm missing out." Over 9 months, Carrie continues to lose weight, and the biggest transformation has been in how she feels about herself. Along the way, she has received support to build activity into her daily life and is reaping the awards. Her fitness has improved dramatically too. She's now far more energy and has taken on challenges she once never imagined possible. She's recently completed the Couch to 5K programme and has found a love of running, alongside walking on the days in between. She has even climbed a couple of Munros, something that would have been completely out of reach before. There have still been difficult weeks, she admits, but having the support of her group and her Slimming World consultant has helped her stay on track. She added, "On the weeks it has been tough. My Slimming World group has supported me with identifying the psychological barriers that have been deep-rooted. They have encouraged me to get to know myself as a slimmer and boosted my confidence in myself and my abilities." Now, Carrie is ready to give that same support back to others. She's embarking on an exciting new role as Slimming World consultant and will be relaunching the Broxburn Wednesday evening group, which is held in Buchan Park Bowling Club on Greendykes Road on Wednesday, April 15th, with sessions at 5:30 and 7 p.m. Drawing on her own experience, she hopes to create a warm and welcoming space where others, no matter how nervous they feel at first, can begin their own journey. For Carrie, this next chapter is about more than weight loss. It's about helping others build confidence, find support, and realise that lasting change is possible. Because, as she now knows for certain, they can really do it. If you want to find out more about joining Carrie and beginning your own weight loss journey, give her a call or text on 07359 725 428.
£15 million plea rebuffed by Holyrood. West Lothian Council has been snubbed by Holyrood for £15 million it needs for the rebuild of St Kentigern's Academy. The Public Finance Minister responded to a plea made directly to John Swinney, the First Minister, by Council leader Lawrence Fitzpatrick. Councillor Fitzpatrick said a previous promise of funding for the school was now being reneged on. He has written again to Mr Swinney, telling the First Minister a pledge is a pledge. The school is expected to reopen later this year after the extensive works which saw 60% of the original building torn down because of racked, crumbling concrete roof panels. The council has used £20 million of its own resources and has made repeated calls to the Scottish Government to cover the last £15 million it needs. Without it, the council faces a 20-year repayment on borrowed funds, which would cost it £30 million. Mr Fitzpatrick, who leads the minority Labour administration in Livingston, first wrote to Mr Swinney last month, urging him to honour promises made to him and Education Executive Councillor Andrew Maguire by the Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth. In his first letter to Mr Swinney, Councillor Fitzpatrick said the Minister had acknowledged that St Kent's was an exceptional case. The need for the funding was agreed cross-party and supported by the two SNP MSPs in West Lothian. In response, the Minister for Public Finance, Ivan McKee, wrote to the council leaders saying, "At present, we are unable to offer additional funding through LEIP for St Kentigern's Academy. Nevertheless, we remain committed to working collaboratively with COSLA, local authorities and Scottish Futures Trust to explore how we can deliver further improvements to the school estates efficiently and effectively. I would encourage West Lothian Council to maintain close engagement with Scottish Government officials and Scottish Future Trust as this work progresses." He added, "This matter remains under serious consideration as part of our wider approach to supporting Scotland's learning estate." Responding to Mr McKee's letter, the council leader wrote back to the First Minister this week. Councillor Fitzpatrick said, "There is a serious breach of the undertaking given to Councillor Andrew Maguire, my Chair of Education, and myself by the Cabinet Secretary for Education, who visited the school last winter when it was under massive reconstruction to the effect that the desperately needed £15 million would be provided. It sadly is the case that follow-up letters to Miss Gilruth have been met with a deafening silence. My council is not seeking LEIP funding as suggested by Mr McKee, which, as you know, is subject to a bidding process. A pledge is a pledge, which is expected to be honoured. He added, as First Minister acting within the powers bestowed on you, quickly reacted to the desperate pleas and provided £20 million for a concert hall in Edinburgh and £10 million for Glasgow Central Rail Station fire. Clearly, Mr McKee has not completely slammed the door on my request, but I get the clear impression that the ask has been kicked into the long grass. He concluded by saying, as we approach Easter, and with it the spirit of light and a new beginning, I would plead on behalf of the community at St Kent's, much of which covers communities suffering poverty and deprivation, to step forward honourably as First Minister and provide the £15 million as promised by your Cabinet Secretary for Education. Contacted by the local Democracy reporting, the First Minister office detailed that in 2026 West Lothian Council will receive £498.9 million to fund local services. It added that while the statutory responsibility for managing and maintaining schools rests with the school authorities, the Scottish Government continues to provide investment in the school estate.
Fun of theatre features on cinema screens. To celebrate World Theatre Day, View in Livingston is highlighting upcoming theatre and opera productions showing on the big screen, featuring shows from the Metropolitan Opera, the Royal Ballet and Opera and National Theatre Live. Audiences can enjoy world-class stage productions from the comfort of their local view. On April 16th, Arthur Miller's powerful drama, All My Sons, arrives on the big screen via National Theatre Live. Set in post-war America, the gripping play centres on a successful family business whose past decisions during wartime began to resurface, forcing those involved to confront questions of responsibility, guilt and moral compromise. Breaking Bad star Bryan Cranston and Marianne Jean-Baptiste feature in the 5-star triumphantly acclaimed production. For those looking for something more magical, on April the 21st, the Royal Ballet and Opera's enchanting production of Mozart's The Magic Flute promises a visually spectacular experience. Rounding off the programme on April the 30th is the dazzling musical favourite Funny Girl, the musical. The beloved production tells the story of legendary performer Fanny Bryce and her rise to fame, featuring iconic songs including Don't Rain on My Parade and People, as it charts Bryce's journey from ambitious performer to Broadway star. A View Livingston spokesperson said, World Theatre Day is a celebration of the creativity, passion and artistry that make live performance so special. These screenings bring the magic of some of the world's greatest stages directly to the big screen. From powerful operatic epics to unforgettable drama and musicals, we are proud to give theatre lovers a chance to experience incredible performances in a new way.
Carer struck off following court verdict. A West Lothian carer has been struck off the Scottish Social Services Council register after evidence was found they stole a packet of cigarettes from a blind and extremely vulnerable service user. Catherine Moffat, whose town of employment was listed as Bathgate, stole from the service user on July 21st, 2023. Moffat was found to have taken advantage of the service user's vulnerability and caused him financial and emotional harm. She was convicted of the theft at Hamilton Sheriff Court on October 24th, 2024. As a result, the Scottish Social Services Council imposed a striking off order, meaning Moffat can no longer work in the care industry. In a report they wrote, "You stole a packet of cigarettes from a service user. The behaviour was dishonest and represented a serious misuse of power. The service user was blind and extremely vulnerable. You took advantage of this and stole from them. The service user suffered financial and emotional harm. It is appreciated that the item that was stolen was a packet of cigarettes and not of high value, but this was an abuse of trust. While this was an isolated incident, the behaviour is a fundamental breach of the codes of practice and calls into question integrity, values and character. Despite pleading guilty and being convicted, you have continued to deny that you stole the cigarettes and have attempted to minimise your actions and place blame on the service user. You have failed to accept responsibility for your actions and have not expressed any empathy or understanding of the impact of your behaviour. You have provided no assurances that this behaviour will not be repeated in the future." They also highlighted that Moffat's actions not only damaged the trust put in them by their employer and the service user, but could have also damaged the reputation of the entire profession. In her favour, they noted this was an isolated incident. Moffat had previous findings that their fitness to practice was impaired and that she cooperated with the SSSC's investigation. However, they also noted Moffat had tried to minimise her behaviour, adding, "There has been no insight, regret or apology." Ultimately, the SSSC decided the only appropriate sanction was a removal order. They added, "A warning would not be appropriate as it would not adequately address the impairment of your fitness to practice. The behaviour is extremely serious. A warning would give no protection to service users or the public. A condition would not be appropriate because there are no conditions which could be placed on you which would address why your fitness to practice is impaired. You are not currently working in the sector, so a condition would not be workable or enforceable. A suspension order would not be appropriate as your behaviour, impairment of your fitness to practice is fundamentally incompatible with continuing registration. The interests of people who use services and the public would not be sufficiently protected by any period of suspension. There is little evidence you acknowledge the misconduct and we consider there is a risk that similar behaviour could be repeated."
Deer Park is hosting Easter events. Families, friends and locals alike are invited to enjoy an array of events and live entertainment over the Easter period at Deer Park Golf and Country Club in Livingston. With the school holidays on us, Deer Park has put together a programme packed full of live music, interactive events and family fun throughout April. Whether it's keeping the little ones busy or battling it out over a quiz and enjoying live entertainment, there is something for everyone to get stuck into this Easter. The programme includes a speed quiz, a music bingo night, kicking things off on Friday, which is tomorrow, April the 3rd, alongside performances from BBC featured singer-songwriters in the Golfers Bar on weekends throughout the month. Families visiting during the Easter break can also take advantage of a special bowling offer with free eating included with every bowl and bite booking between now and April the 13th, offering a sweet treat and fun way to keep children entertained during the holidays. Natasha McAllister, General Manager at Deer Park Golf and Country Club, is hoping for large attendances at the events. She said, "Spring is always an exciting time for us at Deer Park. The golf course is in full swing for the new season, and the Bunker Sports Bar with bowling, pool, and interactive darts offers entertainment for all the family, no matter what the weather is. We have also added a packed lineup of evening entertainment from quizzes to live performances, and the Golfers Bar is open throughout, serving classic dishes like steak pie and fish and chips. Open 7 days a week, serving a variety of food and drinks options. Deer Park is home to an 18-hole championship golf course, 16-lane 10-pin bowling centre, sports bar, the Bunker with darts and pool table." And that's the end of part 1. We'll be back with part 2 very shortly. Welcome back to part 2. And normally we would start part 2 with some family intimations, but this week there are no family intimations. So what we'll do is we'll carry on with some more news items.
Charity warns dog owners over spring bulbs. With spring officially beginning, Dogs Trust West Calder is reminding dog owners that while many will be looking forward to longer days and warmer weather, there are also seasonal hazards to be aware of. As more people enjoy the outdoors with their pets, the charity is highlighting the risks posed by common spring plants and bulbs, many of which can be toxic to dogs, and is encouraging owners to take simple steps to keep their pets safe while enjoying the start of the new season. Signs of spring are already showing in parts of the country, but while the season brings an abundance of beautiful blooms, including snowdrops, daffodils, tulips and bluebells, some of these plants can be toxic to dogs. Common signs of poisoning may include vomiting, diarrhea, excessive drooling, lethargy, and in severe cases, difficulty breathing, tremors, and even seizures. In some cases, spring bulb poisoning can prove fatal. If you suspect that your dog has ingested a poisonous plant, Dogs Trust recommends that you contact your vet immediately, even if symptoms are not yet visible. Aidan O'Connor, Senior Vet Surgeon at Dogs Trust, says, "After what feels like an incredibly long winter, it's wonderful to see the early signs of spring popping up through the ground. However, while flowers such as daffodils and tulips are great to look at, they can be problematic for our canine friends, especially those who love to dig in the garden. Although cases of poisoning are rare, knowing which plants are dangerous and keeping them out of reach can help prevent accidental poisoning. If you suspect your dog has eaten anything they shouldn't have, including spring bulbs, you must seek vet advice promptly. The sooner your dog is treated, the better their chance of a full recovery." Several common spring flowers and plants are poisonous to dogs, the most common being daffodils, tulips, bluebells, rhododendrons, azaleas, and amaryllis. With spring popular time for gardening, Dogs Trust reminds dog owners to carefully consider which plants to introduce into their outdoor spaces. Always check if the plants are safe for dogs before planting. For more information on which plants are poisonous to dogs, search Dog Friendly Garden at www.dogtrust.org.uk.
Rogue traders warning from council. West Lothian residents are being urged to spot the red flags when getting work done outside their property. Rogue traders often offer services outside the house, such as gardening, driveway work, roof repairs, or waste uplifted. Anyone who thinks of hiring these kinds of work should look out for the warning signs that the trader might not be above board. Hiring a rogue trader can result in work not being done or not being completed, work not being done to required standard, including safety standards, and any waste from your property being fly-tipped rather than disposed of responsibly. West Lothian Council's Trading Standards team have advised of the red flags and green flags to look for when hiring. The West Lothian Council website states rogue traders are more likely to use cold calling techniques than legitimate businesses, so residents should be cautious with anyone who comes to their door unannounced. Cold calling is also linked to distraction thefts and burglaries. Pressure to start immediately. Unscrupulous workmen will often get residents to agree to work immediately, so not giving you the chance to reconsider or use the statutory 14-day cooling-off period if you wish. Whilst many traders prefer to work in cash, most businesses provide options to pay by card or bank transfer if required.
Health and care budget tops £326 million next year. West Lothian's health and care budget will top £326 million next year, the county's integration joint board agreed. With strict savings packages approved, it will meet demands for a balanced budget this year, but early indications are that more money will be needed to be trimmed to meet the 2027-28 budget. The councillors and board members heard this. The board, which oversees social care in West Lothian, is jointly funded by West Lothian Council and Lothian NHS. Chief Financial Officer for the board, Hamish Hamilton, told this week's meeting, "This is the weakest position the board have been in financially in several years. Of the £360 million budget, the council provides £125 million and Lothian NHS £220 million. The council has allocated £2.9 million to the board to fully fund the estimated recurring overspend in adult social care. A total of £15.2 million savings have been identified for the next 2 years, £7.8 million this year and £7.4 million next year. But even with these savings, only £5 million is in place for 27-28. Another £2 million will have to be found to balance the budget. Mr. Hamilton told the meeting that the biggest significant development is the complete depletion of the last of the board's cash reserves, reused up to address savings needed in the current financial year. He added, "This has major implications. The board has no buffer. Any overspends must be met by additional savings or relying on partners. The position is more critical than it ever was." In his report, Mr. Hamilton said, "As part of developing the updated budget plan, the board completed a public consultation during autumn 2025, and the full findings of that consultation were reported to the board on 4th of February 2026. A total of 369 responses were received, and key feedback was identified which has been taken into account when developing savings measures. For example, responses strongly opposed any measure reducing adult daycare services, and as a result, no measures are being proposed in this area. Proposals have been developed around the following themes: efficiency, reducing the cost of inputs, for example, supplementary staffing, medicines and equipment. Transformation, which would be reducing cost of outputs like care at home, cost per bed day, and intermediate care. And third one is difficult choices, reducing or stopping services. Mr. Hamilton urged the board, given the scale of the financial sustainability challenge of its imperative, that the board focuses on the medium-term savings programme required to ensure the ongoing financial sustainability of the board. As part of the longer-term budget strategy, it is recommended that officers commence a review of the implications of demographic changes across all health and social care services. Feedback from the public consultation will be considered during this review, which should consider demands for services as well as opportunities to redesign services. After the meeting, Alison White, the lead officer, told the local Democracy Reporting Service, the budget for 2026 and 2027 have now been agreed and will see over £326 million invested in health and social care across West Lothian. Both West Lothian Council and the NHS Lothian provided a fair settlement this year, which will enable the board to deliver our strategic plan aimed at improving well-being and reducing health inequalities across all communities in West Lothian. There remain challenges due to constrained public sector finances and the increasing demand for services, such as adult and older people's social care, GP prescribing, and increased costs over the peak winter periods. Savings focused on maintaining services provisions where possible, and in many cases are aimed at improving service quality and resilience. To deliver this gap and deliver a balanced budget, we will be making savings of £7.8 million and using all of the £2.1 million of our remaining reserves in 2026.
Provider has its hospital plans approved. A private healthcare provider has secured planning approval for a multi-million hospital expansion in Livingston. Cause Medicare, the Scotland-based private healthcare provider behind St Ellen's Hospitals, is set to post record profits in its 10th year and has secured planning approval from West Lothian Council, signalling a major new phase of growth for the business. The cosmetic surgery business, which is the UK's only independent female-founded hospital, established in 2016 by Jill Baird, has rebounded strongly following a major strategic reset after a sudden shift in the private healthcare market, and is forecasting £6 million in revenue and £1.4 million profit for the surgical capacity and support the delivery of more complex procedures. The expansion plans were developed by architects CGA Design Limited in Paisley. The recovery follows a £1.2 million drop in bariatric surgery revenue last year, which was driven by the rapid rise in weight loss medications, which forced the business to pivot its model and refocus on high-margin plastic and reconstructive procedures. Founder Joe Baird took direct control of the business during this period, leading a full operational restructure, renegotiating supplier contracts, and repositioning the company's clinical offering. Commenting on the milestone, Jill said, "Reaching 10 years in business is a huge moment for us, but what matters is how we've got here. The last year has been one of the most challenging we've faced, but it's also been the most important in shaping the future of Cause Medicare. We made some difficult decisions, refocused the business, and doubled down on what we do best, safe, consultant-led surgery with strong clinical governance. That clarity has put us back on a strong financial footing and given us confidence to invest in the next phase of growth. The expansion of St Helens Hospital reflects growing demand for private healthcare services, particularly as NHS waiting lists remain under pressure. Cause Medicare has responded with initiatives including a dedicated NHS waiting list programme, offering faster access to surgery at competitive self-pay rates. The business now employs 31 staff across its Livingston and Glasgow hospitals and delivers a range of services including cosmetic, reconstructive and gender-affirming surgery, orthopaedics and private GP care. Looking ahead, the planned Livingston expansion will support increased surgical capacity and is expected to play a key role in the company's long-term ambition to develop additional specialist services, including orthopaedics and longer-stay procedures.
MP hits out at harmful content for men and boys. Bathgate and Linlithgow MP Kirstine Sullivan has joined MP colleagues in writing to Ofcom Chief Executive Dame Melanie Dawes, urging the regulator to take stronger action to protect men and boys from harmful online content, including material linked to the so-called manosphere. In November 2025, Ofcom published guidance addressing how platforms can take action against the specific and disproportionate harms affecting women and girls online, a requirement of their statutory duties under the Online Safety Act. Since that guidance was published, organisations including the Centre for Policy Research on Men and Boys have requested similar guidance to be provided on the specific risks facing men and boys online. Ofcom have so far declined to do so, as the legislation only compels the regulator to provide guidance for harms facing women and girls, even though nothing in the law prevents them from acting. As highlighted in the recent documentary by Louis Theroux, Inside the Manosphere, teenage boys are the targets, a group of misogynist influencers online, leaving them at disproportionate risk of specific harms, including far-right political radicalisation, crypto scams, and violent pornography through content by popular creators. Men and boys encounter harmful content, including mis- and disinformation, pornography and misogynist content, at a roughly similar rate to women and girls. However, the content targeted at a male audience is likely to be different, and platforms might need to take different steps to understand and tackle the problem. Ms. Sullivan said, "Men and boys in Bathgate and Linlithgow deserve better than the exploitative and harmful extremes peddled to them by the worst parts of the internet. The government has committed to having women and girls in this Parliament, but we won't be able to achieve this without tackling the spread of hateful, misogynist content online. For the safety and well-being of both men and women in Bathgate and Linlithgow, it is crucial that Ofcom gets a grip of the situation. There is nothing stopping them from providing clear guidance to platforms to monitor and guard against harmful content targeted at a male audience. We need to see urgent action. Research shows that boys are particularly vulnerable to certain online harms. For example, 53% of boys aged 11 to 17 report seeing gambling adverts online each week, compared to 31% of girls, while the vast majority of sextortion victims are male. Mark Brooks, Policy Director at the Centre for Policy Research on Men and Boys, said, "Over the last year, we have made the case for Ofcom to issue guidance to help address online harms affecting young men and boys. More is now known about the broad range of online content that is impacting their lives, from looks maxing to crypto, gambling to violence, and suicide to sextortion, never forgetting misogyny and pornography. We know there is growing concern from parents and wider society about this content, yet there has been a lack of policy response specifically aimed at them and making online platforms accountable for the content targeted at them. There is now an urgent need for this to change." An Ofcom spokesperson said, "We recognise that online harms affect men and boys, as well as women and girls, and that some issues such as sextortion can disproportionately impact them. While the Online Safety Act requires us to produce guidance addressing harms that disproportionately affect women and girls, we are clear that the protections we're putting in place are designed to benefit anyone experiencing online abuse, including harassment and stalking. We also know that exposure to harmful online content can negatively affect boys, which is why our codes require services to protect them from being exposed to pornographic, hateful, and abuse content. And our guidance encourages tech companies to use educational and preventative approaches that help reduce online abuse."
Vital Food Hub could avoid major charges. The Food Hub, established in Bridgend, may escape hefty charges in the shake-up of management of West Lothian community centres. Councillors in Linlithgow were giving assurances that council regeneration staff would work with the volunteers. Chair of the Linlithgow Local Area Committee, Councillor Sally Pattle, told Regeneration Team Leader Dougie Grayson the Larder team need more than, "Here's a website." The Larder, which runs in the village community centre, was re-established last September and quickly built up a loyal following, offering food at reasonable prices, as well as helping to regenerate community spirit in the village. Councillor Pauline Orr said villagers fear that the Larder would have to close because they would not be able to pay the new letting charges imposed next month. The community centre, along with many in the county, will be run directly by the council from next month, and user groups will face a hike in room hiring costs. Councillor Orr said, "The charges will impact the food hub at the community centre. There are concerns about that. It's going to be about £200 to £250 a month that they are going to have to fund for that." Councillor Orr said that she had already heard from some groups who would not be able to pay the fees, and she asked if officers could reconsider the fees at Bridgend for the ladder. It's going to be a considerable hit for Bridgend. The larder is also a community and a social hub. It could have a real negative impact. Councillor Tom Coyne said the meeting that he had sought assurances on potential exemptions at a recent meeting of the Economy, Community, Empowerment and Wealth Building PDSP, adding, "I did highlight the situation that it seemed quite a negative regarding the Council's anti-poverty strategy, and I asked if there could be an action by officers to exempt charities." Marjorie Mackey, the lead officer of the local area committee, reminded councillors that decisions on the future of all community centres had been supported by all councillors at the budget setting meeting. Councillor Patel said, "I definitely think this is an area that possibly has not been anticipated as we move into the transition of the community centre review. Officers have assured me that there's a group like that. They are more than happy to signpost them to other avenues of funding. I know that officers are more than happy to engage with any group which approaches them." Mr. Grayson said that the council website had a page signposting groups to potential funding sources. Councillor Patel said, "My understanding and expectation will be that officers will do a bit more than say, here's a website. Groups like the larder are going to need a lot more assistance than that, and we are coming up to a bumpy transitional period." As previous local area committee meetings, Councillor heard the larder now serves more than 40 customers a week. And that's the end of part 2, and we'll be back with the quiz very shortly. Welcome back to part 3, which, as you know, is our pub quiz. So here are the 6 questions of the pub quiz. In cookery, what type of fruit is used to make a traditional Melba sauce? Is it strawberry, raspberry, or gooseberry? Question 2. English preacher and writer John Bunyan spent more than a decade in a jail in which town? Was it Bedford, Luton, or Northampton? Question 3. How many countries in South America are landlocked? Is it 4, 3, or 2? Question 4. What was the first name of the character played by Wilfred Bramble in Steptoe and Son? Was it Albert, Arthur, or Alfred? Question 5. What variety of alcoholic spirit is cognac? Is it sherry, brandy, or port? And question 6. In astrology, what is the 7th sign of the zodiac? Is it Scorpio, Libra, or Taurus? And we'll be back in part 4 with the answers. Welcome back to part 4, and we'll start off part 4 with the answers to the quiz. And there's been a few arguments here. Here we go. In cookery, what type of fruit is used to make a traditional Melba sauce? Strawberry, raspberry, or gooseberry? And the answer is raspberry. Question 2. The English preacher and writer John Bunyan spent more than a decade in a jail in which town? Bedford, Luton, or Northampton? And the answer is Bedford. Question 3. How many countries in South America are landlocked? Is it 4, 3 or 2? And the answer is 2. Question 4. What was the first name of the character played by Wilfred Bramble in Steptoe and Son? Was it Albert, Arthur or Alfred? And the answer is Albert. Question 5. What variety of alcoholic spirit is cognac? Is it sherry, brandy or port? And the answer is brandy. And question 6. In astrology, what is the 7th sign of the zodiac? So you were all counting through. Is it Scorpio, Libra or Taurus? And the answer is Libra. And that's the end of the pub quiz. So we'll finish off part 4 with some more news items.
Psychopath serial rapist denied freedom after first parole bid. A psychopath serial rapist who was handed a life sentence has had his first bid for freedom rejected. But one of Alan Rochford's victims fears he will come for her if he is ever released. Brute Rochford was found to show a range of psychopathic traits after he raped and sexually abused 4 women. The 39-year-old terrorised one former partner by posing as an internet blackmailer to trick her into performing depraved and humiliating sex acts. He was hit with an order for lifelong restriction and caged for a minimum of 7 years in 2021. He was allowed to make a parole bid this week after just 5 years in prison. The victims have now been told that his bid for freedom has been rejected. One, who believed Rochford from West Lothian would kill her after getting out, has spoken of her relief. The woman, who we have named Lucy, said, "I can't tell you the relief I feel." Sadly, he'll be able to apply every 12 months from now on, so we'll face this nightmare every year. But for now, he won't be able to get his freedom, and we can sleep a little easier knowing he's where he belongs. I'm happy the parole board have clearly seen that he's still a threat to women and don't think he's fit to be amongst the public. I can't see him having made any kind of progress from behind bars. Once a psychopath, always a psychopath. No amount of therapy or treatment will ever be enough, in my opinion. Rochford was convicted of 12 charges, including 6 rape offences, 2 indecent assaults, and a further 2 sexual assaults. He committed his vile crimes in Edinburgh, West Lothian, Stirling and Ayrshire between 2009 and 19. He was found guilty at the High Court in Glasgow on 4 accounts between 2018 and 2019 of raping Lucy. The Fiend was also found guilty of 2 charges of extorting graphic images of women by threatening to expose intimate pictures online. The record previously told how in 2017, under the guise of an anonymous blackmailer, Rochford also threatened another victim. He vowed he would put graphic pictures of her online unless she sent him images of herself performing sexual acts. Playing the extortionist, Rochford used a bogus Facebook profile to bombard his victim with more than 6,000 messages, coercing her into fulfilling his sordid rape fantasies. The brute also preyed on a woman in Bonnyrigg between 2009 and 2011. He was convicted of raping her, indecently assaulting her, and filming a violent sex session. Rochford also abused a woman in Edinburgh over a 3-year period from 2013. At sentencing in 2021, one psychiatric risk assessment described him as having no inhibitions to harming others. Another said he had narcissistic personality disorder. Rochard was also given a sexual offences prevention order banning him from contacting his victims or accessing any images of them. Ahead of the parole hearing this week, Lucy said, "If he does get parole, there is a very real danger, just not to myself, but to the others involved. Part of the orders against him is that he can never contact us, but knowing him the way that I do, it's just a piece of paper as far as he's concerned. He is incredibly devious, and whatever possible way he could try to find to break that, he would."
Duo honoured for outstanding nursing service. 2 West Lothian nurses have received prestigious awards for their contribution to the profession. Linda Rumbles and Tobias Kunkel have received the RCN Award of Merit, the organisation's highest honour, in recognition of their dedication to the RCN and the nursing profession. Linda, a registered mental health nurse from Livingston, has been an RCN rep for more than 2 decades. During this time, Linda's passion for nursing profession has shone through, and she has inspired countless colleagues with her exceptional knowledge and commitment. Linda's nominators praised her professional and compassionate approach to her role as an RCN rep. Whether supporting an individual member or developing and implementing policies that will impact thousands, Linda carries herself with integrity and generosity, using her position to advocate unwaveringly for the nursing profession. On receiving the Award of Merit, Linda said, "I'm delighted and humbled to receive this award. It is a reflection of all my colleagues' support, which allows me to do the role I do, and I would like to acknowledge and thank them. I see the role as a privilege, particularly when RCN members trust me to guide and support them." Tobias Kunkel is a health and safety rep at NHS Lothian, having previously worked as emergency nurse practitioner in the Minor Injury Unit, Western General Hospital. He is RCN Lothian and Borders branch treasurer and was instrumental in steering the branch through the COVID-19 pandemic. Tobias's nominators praised him as an advocate for well-being, empowerment and social justice. Tobias also represents Scotland on the RCN's Trade Union Committee and sits on the RCN Scottish Board. Through this role, he has played a key part in lobbying government and employers, advancing safe staffing legislation, contributing to pay negotiations, and chairing a Band 5 review job evaluation panel. Commenting on his win, Tobias said, "I am deeply honoured to receive the RCN Award of Merit. From our local workplaces to the national forums shaping our working lives, I have always fought to strengthen the terms and conditions and the health, safety and well-being of our members and the wider NHS workforce. This recognition belongs to every member and rep who has stood shoulder to shoulder driving change, and to the RCN teams turning our collective demands into real improvements. Together we have shown that we stand united. We can win safer workplaces, fairer treatment, and a health service built on dignity, solidarity and equality." Linda and Tobias received their awards at a ceremony at RCN's UK headquarters in London. Colin Pullman, Executive Director, RCN Scotland, said, Congratulations to Linda and Tobias on receiving the RCN Award of Merit is for their exceptional contributions to the RCN and to the nursing profession as a whole. This award is a testament to the commitment, enthusiasm and expertise Linda and Tobias have shown throughout their time as RCN reps. Their advocacy and support have so far helped countless nursing staff, and their contributions will undoubtedly have a lasting impact.
Gymnasts jump for joy as new centre will open. A brand new dedicated home for gymnastics in West Lothian will open this June as Excite West Lothian Leisure prepares to launch a new gymnastics arena in Bathgate, following a 170% surge in gymnastics participation in recent years. A £330,000 investment will transform the former indoor bowling hall space at Excite Bathgate into a purpose-built gymnastics facility, helping meet the rapidly growing demand for the sport across West Lothian and creating new opportunities for children, young people and families to get active. Excite Bathgate has driven more than half the growth in gymnastics participation at Excite venues since 2021, with many of the current sessions running close to full capacity and waiting lists are in place. The new arena will significantly expand capacity, allowing more people to take part while supporting progression from beginner sessions through to club and competitive levels. Designed as a modern, flexible gymnastics environment, the area will feature specialist equipment, dedicated learning zones, and dual activity area that allow multiple programs to run simultaneously. Excite will host a wide range of activities in the space, including early years classes, recreational gymnastics, club training, adult sessions, and birthday parties. The project will also create new employment and training opportunities, including a dedicated gymnastics development officer role and up to 16 new coaching positions. Excite's Become a Coach program will also provide fully funded opportunities for local people to train as gymnastics coaches, helping build a sustainable workforce while opening new career pathways in sport. The facility will also support schools and community groups, offering structured opportunities for physical activity and helping young people build confidence, strength, and coordination throughout movement-based sport. Participation in gymnastics has been particularly strong among young people and girls, and the new facility aims to ensure more local children can access the sport while providing a clear development pathway for those wishing to progress further. Ben Lamb, the Chief Executive Officer of Excite, said, "The new Bathgate Gymnastics Arena is a really exciting development for the community and for gymnastics in West Lothian. Demand for our gymnastics programs has grown rapidly in recent years, and this dedicated facility will allow us to welcome many more participants, while providing a high-quality environment for learning, development and progression. We are grateful to West Lothian Council for their support, which has made this project possible." Executive Councillor for Economy, Community Empowerment and Wealth Building, Susan Mannion, said, "We are delighted to be able to enable West Lothian Leisure in creating this fantastic new facility that will benefit the local community for generations to come. There is clearly a huge increase in demand for gymnastics, and this facility will allow more young people, adults, and families to participate in the sport. Further details of the programmes at Bathgate Gymnastics Arena and how to register for classes will be announced ahead of the arena's opening in June on Excite's website. And that takes us to the end of part 4, and it brings us to the end of the news from the Courier. But please stay tuned and I'll let you know when we've finally finished the recording. In Team 3's recording sessions, we usually include, where possible, a poem or a composition written and read by one of our team, Ray. But because Ray is multitasking tonight, what we have done is inserted a short story by the Talking Newspaper Federation.
Hello, this is Jeff again, and I must ask you to stand by because I am about to reveal a secret about myself. Now, you ready for this? Brace yourself, because here it comes. I hate salad. Not only that, but I hate almost all green vegetables, and I also hate nuts. This is something that's caused me endless trouble since I was a small boy, and it's time I had a good moan about it. For the whole of my life, I've had to suffer well-meaning people telling me that I should eat salad, green vegetables, and nuts because they're good for me. They're healthy, and they will help me to lose weight. However, when I look at a plate of these things, all I can see is a pile of leaves, stalks, and bits of wood, and I really can't understand how anybody in his right mind could possibly enjoy eating them. If I do force them down, I feel sick, or at the very least, suffer from violent indigestion. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that it must all be my parents' fault. They should have insisted that from a very early age I try all kinds of food. This would have meant that I would have learned to enjoy everything, and there would have been no problem. Well, you're wrong. My parents did insist that I try everything, but it did no good. When I went to boarding school at the age of 11, things got even worse, because this was the kind of food we were given. It was a matter of eat it or go hungry. I often chose to go hungry. Boarding school also served to add to the list of other foods that I couldn't stomach. For instance, every Tuesday lunch consisted largely of chopped raw vegetables. Another featured leeks, great slimy strings of the things, which to me tasted like something you might dredge from the bottom of a pond. And then there was sago pudding. Do you remember that? The dreaded frog spawn. I vowed that from the time I left school I would never touch them again, and I never have. But it's salad that has always caused me the most trouble. You may wonder why my hatred of it has made life so difficult for me. Well, you have no idea how often it is that I'm invited out for a meal where the hostess has spent hours lovingly preparing the food. And what has pride of place in the middle of the table? Salad. A great big bowl of the stuff, all beautifully arranged and looking very colourful and artistic. My heart sinks. Now what do? Do I say, I'm afraid I don't eat salad and risk upsetting her? No, of course I don't. I take as little of it as I think I can get away with, and I manfully force it down, trying not to gag as I do so. For me, it's torture. Over the years, I've had to perfect the art of choosing anything else on the menu and accompanying it with the smallest possible amount of the salad. Even then I get into trouble. Have some more salad, they say. Oh, no, thank you, I lie. It was delicious, but I'm absolutely full. If I actually admit to the fact that I hate the stuff, I have to suffer the remarks and the unspoken suggestion that I'm odd or weird. I can see people thinking that there must be something wrong with me. They've obviously never met anyone else who didn't like salad, and they can't understand how anyone like me could possibly exist. I have to be very polite and avoid the temptation to say, If someone presented you with a bowl of witchetty grubs or camel's eyeballs and said, "Oh, you must eat them, they're very good for you," what would you do? There are not many advantages to living alone and having to do one's own catering. However, there is one. It means that I can avoid all the worries by simply choosing the foods I like. I don't have to face any criticism. Also, I apologise for the unworthy thought, but I can't resist a wry smile when I remember all the adults who have made my life difficult by insisting that I eat salad and green vegetables because they would make me healthy and live longer. Virtually all of those people are now long gone. I, on the other hand, am now 82 years old, and I'm still here.
We have now come to the end of this week's recording. We hope you have enjoyed it. When you have finished listening to this recording, can I remind you to place the USB stick in the wallet, reverse the label so that the cutout corner is in the top right-hand side, and post it back to us as soon as possible. Team 3 would like to wish all our listeners a very happy Easter, and don't eat too many chocolate eggs. If you're as old as me, you will remember having hard-boiled eggs and going out to the nearest hill to roll them down. And if you still do that, remember to let the egg go. Remember again, wallets should only be posted in a postbox. Please do not post them at the post office. So, it's goodbye from the members of our team.
Therine.
Nan.
And from Jim. And from Ray, who's been the silent partner here. And he's been our engineer and distributor. So have a nice Easter and bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.